How are real world evidence and health economics data shaping pricing and market access strategies?
Yeah, real world evidence is extremely important. As you know, historically, the industry has depended on clinical trials. So essentially, the two randomized placebo controlled trials used to be the gold standard. From there, where we have evolved is beyond placebo controlled trials. Now, what we look for is comparative effectiveness. So essentially, how good is your treatment compared to the next best treatment that's available? And that may be the standard of care today. But what we are also realizing and have realized over time is all the questions that need to be answered cannot always be done purely through randomized controlled clinical trials. Also, randomized controlled clinical trials are essentially an artificial environment where patients are under a rigid system and they go through the process and they generate some response. That doesn't replicate how the real world is. That's where comes in real world evidence. So essentially stepping outside the clinical trial and essentially in a regular environment, how would the medicine perform? That's what real world evidence does. So using databases and registries, trying to track patient outcomes over time after launch, and then essentially have that data replicate, support, or nullify the clinical trial data depending on how it shapes up. So again, real world evidence is an important complement to the gold standard, that's clinical trials. Regulators have opened up a lot and they're really looking forward and have incorporated real world evidence into the assessment process, the regulatory assessment process. Payers and health technology assessment agencies have been slower to move in that field, but also they're trying to catch up and essentially trying to close the gap between regulators making the regulatory decisions and then payers and health technology assessment agencies making the access decisions using real world data along with clinical trial data.